And good morning. It's 7:04 on this Tuesday, October 22nd. It's time to head to Studio B for Coleman and Company. Our guest host today, Dr. Paul Stum.
Good morning, MJ, and good morning, everyone out on this beautiful Tuesday morning. I am filling in for Coleman today, who's on special assignment, and I am so grateful always to Coleman when he allows me to sub in for him. None of us can do it in the way that he does it, and we all miss him, but nevertheless, I always enjoy being here. It's great to see MJ and Billy and other friends here. Today, though, I'm in the studio all by myself, and so normally on a Tuesday morning, we would have somebody from Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital here. But I have a script that I'm told to briefly read. It's Today's Health Minute, brought to all of us by Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital. Did you know that nearly 50% of all heart attacks go unnoticed? These silent heart attacks, as they're called, can happen with either extremely mild symptoms or no symptoms at all sometimes. Silent heart attacks are often discovered during routine screenings, and non-traditional symptoms of silent heart attacks include heartburn, nausea, fatigue, abdominal pain, back pain, and shortness of breath. In the days and weeks after a silent heart attack, people often report becoming short of breath quickly or have feelings of age-related fatigue. Preventing silent heart attacks before they happen is something that all of us can do. With the help of your healthcare provider, make sure to get your blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes under control. Exercise daily and eat a heart-healthy diet. If you think you're experiencing a heart attack, call 911 and get to the nearest emergency room immediately. And I need to say, too, that we are so fortunate to have Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital right here in our own backyard. I spent some time yesterday with Tracy Pope, who would normally be here, and with Scott McCarver, the CEO of the local Vanderbilt Hospital. They both do a magnificent job in taking care of all our health. Of course, I have kind of a unique advantage, and that is because I not only sleep with a grandmother, but I sleep with my doctor, and she takes great care of me as well. But good morning, Lommel. I love you, sweetheart. Thank you for taking good care of me. But for those who aren't as fortunate, we have Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital right in our neighborhood. And by the way, what I met with Tracy and Scott about yesterday was the upcoming Heart Walk, and I expect that Tracy will soon be on here to talk more about that. But that's being planned already for next spring, and sometime later this fall or maybe early in January, early in the winter, we will have the breakfast to prepare for the annual Heart Walk, which raises money to help prevent heart disease, which all of us can benefit from. So don't forget about Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital. I'm now prepared to go to the phone for Mr. Justin Beasley, and if I can do this correctly, Billy showed me how to do it, but I think I just have to hit this button. Justin, are you there? Are you with us?
Yes, sir. I hear you loud and clear. Do you hear me loud and clear?
I do hear you, as we say in the airplane. Oh, I hear you 5 by 5, so that's wonderful. Good to hear you this morning. Good to hear your voice. Where are you this day? Are you in Mount Juliet or Murfreesboro or somewhere else in the world?
I'm headed into work. I hear that you're piloting the program today, so I'm glad to be aboard.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're aboard as well. It's good to talk to you. You know, I've heard you on this radio show many, many times, and you always do a nice job. It is odd for me, I have to admit, being here in studio with nobody else in here. I get to see MJ's beautiful face, smiling face through the window, and Billy over here to my left, but it's odd to have nobody here in studio with me to talk to. But I'm glad you're on the phone with us. How are things coming into work this morning? Traffic bad?
Traffic is all right. I cannot compete with MJ, and I get a little intimidated around superstars.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not in there with her, and especially now that I found out with you. So I think phoning this one in is probably my best bet today.
MJ is indeed a superstar, and I'm glad. I'm just glad you're on the phone with us this morning. Let me ask you something, Justin. I've heard you 100 times on the radio, maybe not 100, that might be a slight exaggeration, but many times. And I love the way you represent Mount Juliet. Frankly, we have a lot of good spokespeople from Mount Juliet. I happen to also be a big fan of Mark Hinesley, who is the CEO, the Chief Encouragement Officer of the Chamber in Mount Juliet. And
I like that.
He's a huge, just advocator, if that's a word, advocate, I guess I should say, for Mount Juliet. But as are you, and I always enjoy hearing you talk about the great things going on in Mount Juliet. And I want to tell you that Coleman has probably done this before, and I missed it. But where are you a native Wilson County? And tell us where are you from originally?
So I'm from West Tennessee, but before you get too far into this, Courtney Wheeler, the ambassador for your program, does a fantastic job. And I think you just did a read for Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital, Tracy Pope as well.
Yeah.
In my field of spokespeople and representation, they're my heroes, and I'm trying to glean and learn stuff from them every day. So I just want to be pretty frank with that. But I'm from West Tennessee. I went to college at MTSU for 4 years.
Okay.
I left for Paducah for my first TV job, where you cut your teeth, make a lot of mistakes. Came to Nashville for my next job, made mistakes there too. Come to the city of Mount Juliet, made a couple more mistakes, but that's basically my journey with TV for about a decade, and now I still do a little bit of it with the city of Mount Juliet, but certainly, God has put me in different places for a different reason, and I don't regret any path that I've taken, but I don't miss TV, but it was great while it lasted, if you know what I mean, before I started a family and all that. So
that's fantastic.
That gives you a little bit of my background.
I did not know that you were in TV, and that's awesome. I guess you are a very handsome young man. I know I've seen pictures of you, but I'm not sure I've ever even met you in person. But nevertheless, I can see how you would be in TV. That's good. And where originally were you from in West Tennessee? What part?
So I was born in Memphis and raised between Covington and Jackson, Tennessee, between my mom and my dad.
Okay.
And when I got around to college, I kind of realized that I wanted to do radio and TV. We had a weightlifting class in high school, really didn't know what I wanted to do. And Colin Cowherd, at that point, he's on Fox now, he was on ESPN radio, and he would talk for 3 hours. And our weightlifting coach during the football season was obviously doing football plays. He was the head coach. We didn't lift a lot of weights. So we listened to that talk show in his office, and I said, man, I want to do that for a living. So I went to radio, TV. It was called broadcast journalism at MTSU, and really fell in love with it, kind of knew that my personality lended itself to that. I've never doubted for a day what I do for a living because, I just like to have fun, cut up, and be a good representation and tell other people's stories. And I feel like God's got me exactly where he wants to be.
Well, you do it well, and obviously you do enjoy what you're doing. That's interesting. I have some relatives over in Memphis, Tennessee, too, and my brother-in-law, my sister and brother-in-law live over there now. He's a Presbyterian minister in Memphis at Germantown Pres Church. But I also spent some time in Paducah, Kentucky at the gaseous diffusion plant up there that Lockheed Martin used to run. Do you know where that is in Paducah?
Oof, man, I remember I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and 21 years old when I had that job, so
yeah.
It took me, I used the GPS to get to work for a month, so I do not know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Well, there's a plant, a big plant in Paducah, Kentucky that is designed to enrich uranium for nuclear power plants, and it's a neat facility. It's called gaseous diffusion, where they separate the fissile isotopes of uranium, the U-235 isotopes, from depleted U-238 isotopes, and it's a magnificent, interesting business to be in. And in fact, as soon as I leave here, I'm going to the JECDB, where Representative Clark Boyd and a few other folks are going to be talking about the efficacy of nuclear energy because, and you may know this, we are a candidate to get a small modular nuclear reactor here in our community.
Wow.
And we're very excited about that potential. It's very safe. It's very environmentally friendly. It's very efficient. One SMR is equivalent to about 150 wind turbines. And an SMR can fit in the back of a tractor-trailer truck. It's just a small device, and one small modular reactor could suffice the entire residential demand for the whole city of Mount Juliet. It's amazing what this technology will do.
Paul, I'm flattered you think that I can comprehend all that. You lead a university. That is a lot of chemistry for a West Tennessee boy.
Yeah, well, you're a TV star, so you got to fake like you understand it, even if you don't.
Yeah, I've played a doctor on TV. I've played a lot of things on TV, and I joke, fake it to make it every day. But, I mean, there's some truth to that. We're always in rooms where we feel like we're not good enough or not capable, but, thank God, we can learn and not always think we have it all figured out.
Well, that is true. And speaking of not having it figured out, MJ just sent me a message saying, Paul, you're going to miss the break if you don't go to it right now. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with Justin Beasley.
Thanks there, Dr. Paul Stum. And let's see what's happening on the roadways. I want to thank our friends at Absolute Kubota. High performance, high horsepower, 0% financing is still a thing. Now is the best time to save on new Kubota L-Series tractors, rated #1 for durability and owner experience in the U.S. Absolute Kubota, 1506 West Main. Now at traffic, here's Chuck.
Good morning. They're still trying to clean up this wreck on Ellington Parkway southbound at Trinity Lane. It's really slowed down traffic, trying to get down from the top to the bottom on Ellington Parkway southbound. It's loading up pretty good, 24 west up through the Antioch area, coming in from Murfreesboro, watching it build through the Mount Juliet area into Hermitage there on 40 going westbound. Whether you need a new roof repair, roof inspection, if something's going on with your roof, call Independent Roofing Specialist today at 991-2358. Online. Independent Roofing Specialist website is irsroofs.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
District 46 deserves a financially responsible representative whose priority is children and families. I am Joni Cochran, running for Tennessee House District 46. Vote for me, and you'll have someone working on your behalf to give tax breaks for families, protect public schools, remove state government from parental and personal decisions, and pass responsible gun safety and handling laws. Paid for by Joni for TN46, Mary Patterson, Treasurer.
Where a patient starts their cancer care matters. And here, that means Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center, Wilson County. It's Vanderbilt level care without making the drive to Nashville. From screening to diagnosis to treatment and recovery, patients can get all the care they need right here close to home. So now, having the best care team and most advanced treatment is closer than ever. Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center, making cancer care personal.
What is your passion? How can you use that passion to enrich your community? Hi, this is Melanie Minter, President and CEO of the Lebanon-Wilson County Chamber of Commerce. Your chamber is the resource for making connections to fulfill your passion. Whether education, nonprofit, agriculture, entertainment, or government relations, Wilson County offers a place for you to be involved. Your chamber connects businesses, individuals, and your passion to the community. We have an enthusiasm for excellence. Join us and catch the spirit. Call or visit our office at 149 Public Square in Lebanon.
All right, and we're back on the air. Good morning, everyone. Again, this is Paul Stum filling in for Coleman Walker, who's on special assignment this morning. And we have on with us this morning Mr. Justin Beasley, the Mount Juliet Communications Director. And I haven't actually asked him anything about Mount Juliet yet, which I intend to do. But Justin, before we talk about Mount Juliet, can you tell us just a little bit more about you have a couple of young kids. Do you have any siblings? Tell us about your family.
I have a sister. She's technically a stepsister. She is at UT Knoxville, spending all of my mother's money. But hey, I was in college at one point too. And I have two children. Grant actually had a 9-month checkup for yesterday, is my youngest. And then Brady is 2 and some change. So we got Brady and Grant a part of the bunch. And, man, I tell you what, those boys fill me up. And I'm a boy dad, not a girl dad. And, every time, we've had a boy, I've celebrated it, because, you want boys, you want to cut up, you want to roughhouse with them. But I keep being told you need to have a daughter if you want anybody to take care of you when you're an older age.
When you're infirm.
I don't know if I've won or lost in this whole scenario. I'll figure it out in due time.
Well, you're going to have a few more? You're going to, maybe have a whole basketball team or?
I can only have as many as I can afford, and I can't afford these two, so that's a good question. I don't know. We'll see what the Lord has in store, but I've definitely got my hands full with those two. That is for sure.
Well, I will tell you, as a father of both boys and girls, and also as now a grandfather, I'm a grandfather of 8. We have 4 grandsons and 4 granddaughters, and they're all wonderful. And by the way, I will tell you that being a grandfather is a lot better than being a father. But the point I'm getting to is that, in my estimation at least, boys are a lot less expensive than girls. At least that was my experience as a dad. So you're in good shape, my friend, and I'm proud of you for having those 2 boys. They sure are fun, I bet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
So let's talk about Mount Juliet a little bit. What's going on? Have you all had a city council meeting? By the way, I love Kenny Martin. Your city manager is just I've known Kenny since way back when. And he's been a dear friend of mine for a long time as well. And I think you all are awfully fortunate to have him. And Mayor James Manis is also, I've gotten to know him more recently, but he seems like a very capable mayor. But tell me what's going on in the city of Mount Juliet.
He is, and they work well. I'll tell you, Kenny Martin has been our city manager for 12, 13 years. And, you meet city managers across the state, and they'll say, I just took the job, been there 2 years, 3 years. They don't last a decade plus, and it's no surprise that he has, because not only does he lead well, but he keeps the peace. He encourages his staff, and he's honestly given his heart to this city and made a lot of sacrifices in his personal life to make sure our city runs well and that we have a good family-like atmosphere. And for that, I feel like I'll forever be indebted to him.
And his wife is former teacher of the year
with him as well. Our mayor is, say what you want about, elected officials, but man, it's, every time I'm fortunate enough to say the prayer, they get the biggest center in the room to say the prayer before the BOC meetings. And every time I thank the elected body for their service and sacrifice and talents, because if you know anything about local government, it's not full-time, it's part-time.
Right.
And a lot of the headaches come from, you only hear negative stuff. I know within my own hometown, I'll email the elected body and tell them, hey, the trash guy helped with X, Y, and Z, or I'm really impressed with this, just because I know the nature of the business is you only hear about the bad stuff and you only get hate mail. So, we're supposed to pray for our elected body. We're supposed to uplift them, and I try to do my best within my job and day-to-day activities to shine a light on the good work that they do and what we have to be proud of in our community. We like to say Mount Juliet, we're in our prime. Our best years are ahead of us, and we have a little slice of heaven. So if I can spread that message across, 40,000 plus people, I'd like to say I did my job well that day.
I think that's a great attitude. And speaking of being in your prime, I will tell you that when I grew up in Nashville mostly, and I remember as a child, I was born in 1960. I'm now 64 years old, but in 1960 and in the early 1960s, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, owned a boat store in Nashville. It's now called Modern Marine. And he also had a place up in Mount Juliet on Old Hickory Lake at a place that was then called the Cedar Creek Boat Club. It's now called the Cedar Creek Yacht Club. But we used to go up there just about every weekend, and he'd just pull a different boat out of his store. But I'm going to tell you, at that time, in the early 1960s, there was nothing in Mount Juliet. I mean, there wasn't even, I think there was one fast food restaurant. I looked it up just for fun. The population of Mount Juliet in 1980, now that's 15 years or so after I used to go up there a lot, but in 1980, the population of Mount Juliet, you probably know this, but according to Google, the population was 2,879 people. 2,879 people 44 years ago. And do you know what the population, I'm sure you do, of Mount Juliet is today?
We did our census. It's like... Man, it's been a minute since I looked at it. I think somewhere around 42,000 right there in the middle.
Yeah.
Now, that's people that filled out the census. So if it's...
Maybe even more than that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So close, between 40 and 45,000 people now. Order of magnitude plus bigger than it was back in the 1980s. And it's astounding to me how much that city has grown and really fleshed out. And it is a wonderful community now. And I heard you all are expanding the Charlie Daniels Park. Is that correct?
We're expanding the footprint. We have bought the daycare beside it, and the police building where it is now. They're moving into the building that is being built. If you drive by Charlie Daniels Parkway, you'll see. I joke and say the same people that built Costco overnight are building the police department because that bad boy is coming up. But we've got the daycare and now the old police department building that used to be Joy Church that we are potentially using for a senior activity center. And then the daycare is going to be like a teen center. So we are expanding our footprint, expanding our resources, and Rocky Lee does a fantastic job leading that department. I do want to speak to your point about the population. I saw a picture the other day of Pigeon Forge, and if you looked at their strip in 1972 compared to what it is now, it's night and day. And, our city is very young. We were incorporated in 1972, so we're a little more than 51 years old as far as incorporation.
Yeah.
And it's tough because, Kenny Martin has that history. He has been there just about the majority of his life, at least until now. And he said you used to couldn't buy underwear here. And now you have Costco's, BJ's Wholesale. You have, Sprouts coming at Everett Downs across from Mount Juliet Church of Christ. You have all these great amenities. And listen, it's the nature of the beast. People are still going to complain that we want this, that, and the other in Mount Juliet. And it's my job every day. I won't lie. It's an uphill battle to say, hey, let's put this in perspective, how much we have here in just short little due time. And we're trying to grow responsibly. And another point, too, that, how young we are is that we're just in a really good spot. We lean really good on our school systems. We know a lot of people move here.
Yeah.
How great, Jeff Luttrell does. He just spoke at the chamber last week and is an excellent communicator, very sincere in his message. So I want to give a shout out to him.
Yeah. He's a Cumberland University grad, by the way. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Well, that explains it then, right? I mean, what else? You don't need to go too much further back. I know he's at Watertown as well. Good people out there. But I told Mayor Hutto this 2 weeks ago on a panel at Providence Church is that anytime somebody from New York to California, we've seen the country shaken up since 2020. Anytime they move to Wilson County, Mount Juliet specifically, that is a kudos to the elected body and the infrastructure that they have built, the ecosystem that they have built, because they say yes to Mount Juliet over any other place that they could live in.
Right.
I think that has to be a compliment and one that has to be taken personally.
Well, we bring your city, our city of Mount Juliet. I like to call it ours, even though I live here in Lebanon, because I feel it's such an important, integral part of our community. But your city has so much value to add, and it's no wonder that a lot of people want to live and move there. It really isn't.
Oh, absolutely. And, there's always this, you think that Mount Juliet and Lebanon are rivals. It couldn't be further from the truth. Do we compete after the same things? Absolutely. But I think a high tide raises all ships, and the better Lebanon can do, the more Mount Juliet can do, and vice versa. At the end of the day, we all work for the same person, and we're trying to give residents, number one, safety, which we do great in Mount Juliet as far as fire, EMS, and police department. I would argue nobody does it any better. Me and Mayor Bell kind of got into a polite discussion on the stage when we were with Mayor Hutto, but that just shows the type of priorities that we have here, and they're right in Mount Juliet just to, provide that safety. And now, as you mentioned with Charlie Daniels Park, now we want to offer them quality of life, and we think we're doing really good at that. Tons of parks, tons of greenways, and a new park system that will soon be online potentially. So, again, we're in our prime right now. We got it going on. We're basically Patrick Mahomes in year 7. We're defeated, and we're doing a lot of good things.
That's a good analogy. I would agree with that. By the way, I read something else interesting that you may or may not know. You probably do. You know a lot. But I was astounded to see that Mount Juliet, Tennessee, is the only Mount Juliet in the entire U.S. In other words, there's no other city named Mount Juliet in the entire U.S., whereas there are 47 states that have a Lebanon in them somewhere.
Oh, okay.
So, Mount Juliet is unique in a lot of ways, but even in its name. I thought that was interesting.
And by nature, I tell people I usually go against the grain. So if everybody's going this way, I usually choose to go the other way. So I like that we can differentiate ourselves and be different. It really stands out. We think we do the small things right. I've always talked about our City Beautiful program. we pick up trash. And like, why are we paying people to pick up trash? Well, I'll tell you, when a Costco's and a BJ's Wholesale comes to look at your place and see how tidy it is, we think it makes a huge difference. And the broken window theory. You know, if you see everything clean, you want to keep up with it.
Absolutely.
Stuff scattered everywhere, you're going to want to add to that. So it's
I so admire that philosophy, and I completely agree with that, Justin.
Kenny Martin, don't let me take credit for it.
Well, I'm a big fan of Kenny Martin's, and by the way, we should mention his wife was Teacher of the Year. We don't want to miss that. We got about 30 seconds left, and before we sign off with you, Justin, I want to ask you quickly: any update on your astronaut Wilmore? Is his name Barry Wilmore? That's stuck in space.
Barry Wilmore.
Yeah.
Sir, the latest I heard was January or February. We're trying to do something that we can. At the city, we racked our brains a couple of times trying to figure out something we can do, but our thoughts and prayers remain with him and everybody up there and the families impacted. I'm telling you what, a 14-hour workday is, I couldn't imagine being stuck at work that long.
That's about what you normally do, isn't it? 14, 16 hours a day?
Man, I wish. I can't keep up with you, Paul. I gotta get in the trenches a little bit more and get acclimated to all that.
I'm so delighted we had this chance to talk together this morning, and I'm glad again that Coleman allowed me to fill in for him today. We are so grateful to you, Mr. Justin Beasley, Mount Juliet Communications Director. But it's come to the end of our first segment. Justin, have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
You too.
All right, let's see what's happening on the roadways. It's all brought to you by our friends at Bates Ford. That regular oil change, $39.95 up to 5 quarts oil. Tax and disposal, $17.80 Franklin Road. Now at traffic, here's Chuck.
Good morning. It's trying to move a little bit better southbound Ellington Parkway here at Trinity Lane from that earlier crash. Again, it should start to move a little bit better in the next few minutes. Seeing that heavy traffic now trying to get in from Dixon County through Kingston Springs on 40 going eastbound all the way up to Charlotte Pike. 24 is also got a little bit heavier westbound up through Antioch coming in right now from Murfreesboro. Whether you need a new roof repair, roof inspection, make it independent roofing specialists. Give these guys a call at 991-2358 or online at irsroofs.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome to Hearthside Senior Living, Lebanon's unique senior living community designed for seniors to age in place, all within a safe, comfortable, and Christian environment. Beautiful retirement homes designed for an independent lifestyle with maintenance-free living. Hearthside Senior Living also continues the excellent tradition of assisted living for those seniors who need additional services. Hearthside Senior Living, an independent retirement community and assisted living community, all on one campus in the heart of Lebanon. Call 615-443-1994 for a tour.
This is Lebanon Mayor Rick Bell. During my first term as mayor, we have worked together with a sense of urgency to get Lebanon moving into the right direction. This includes approve the largest infrastructure project in the history of Lebanon with sewer lines running to South Hartman Drive. Phase 1 and 2 of a signal synchronization system that will move traffic throughout the city more efficiently. Increase our economic development recruitment efforts, which have resulted in new retail centers and new restaurants to keep our sales tax base strong. This is Mayor Rick Bell. I am asking for your vote.
Paid for by Rick Bell for Mayor, Greg Landers, Treasurer.
Drug-Free Wilco is partnering with local law enforcement agencies for National Drug Take-Back Day on Saturday, October 26. Drop-off locations will be at Gibbs Pharmacy, Walgreens on West Main, Three Forks Marketplace, and TriStar Mount Juliet ER. Unused medications are a public safety issue that may lead to accidental poisoning, overdose, or misuse. Drop them off Saturday, October 26 from 10 to 2 and receive a free lockbox from Drug-Free Wilco. This project is funded under a grant contract with State of Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
We'll have mostly sunny skies for today. Highs around 80. Clear tonight. Lows around 50. And then mostly sunny and warm again on Wednesday. Highs in the lower 80s. This weather forecast brought to you by Walker Auction and Realty. Professional auction and real estate services. Get top dollar for your home, land, or personal property. Log on to MikeWalkerAuctions.com. They know auctions. With your Severe View forecast, I'm Storm Specialist Drew Richards.
And welcome back, everyone. Good morning. This is Paul Stum filling in for Coleman Walker, who's on special assignment today. And as on most Tuesday mornings, we are so fortunate to have with us on the second half Mr. Sean Dozier from Hearthside. And Sean, Let me begin by asking you a question. Is it true, as I've heard, that you were part of the best ever class of Leadership Wilson? Is that true?
I really was, and you were a part of that. And
oh, I forgot. I was a part of that class too, wasn't I?
Yeah. So we spent some time together. That was in the early 2000s. That was a long time ago, Dr. Stone. So
we don't really need to talk about how long ago.
I don't remember what year it was, but anyway. I remember you coming out to the racetrack and enjoying the races out there. That's where I first met you.
That's exactly right. You were with the Super Speedway at that juncture.
You used to come out there, and I think you had sometimes just watch the races in the suites. And
I did indeed, thanks to your generosity.
we had a good time.
That was, I think, we were class of 2004.
I think you're right.
I can't
or maybe three, maybe 2003.
20 or 21 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a moment. And I also want to not fail to mention, because you did something really smart, Sean, the same thing I did. You married up. I happen to know your wife, Rebecca, who was one of my granddaughter's teachers at Coles Ferry Elementary, and she was an awesome teacher.
Well, thank you. She would appreciate that. She's back at Coles Ferry now. She's a learning leader and doing a great job there. She was at Jones Brummett teaching fourth grade, but yeah, she mentions that often that she had your granddaughter.
I'll never forget this. We were at Five Oaks one time having lunch out on the patio, out that beautiful view out there. And I was with my granddaughter and some of my other grandkids. We didn't have as many at that juncture, but Kylie was acting really odd. And I said, Kylie, what's wrong? And she said, Papa, that's my teacher over there. That's Miss Dozier. And I said, well, go over and say hello to her. She said, well, I don't know, Papa. But she did. And
well, I did marry up. She's awesome, and she's a great teacher, and she's been a great mom, great wife, and she's awesome.
Well, tell us about Hearthside. First, how many units total do you all have?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. In the assisted living, we have 44 rooms. We're licensed for 49. So, for instance, we have a couple moving in next week, and so we can take more than 44, if we have a couple moving in. And so they're moving in, and we're licensed for 49. We have 44 rooms. In our independent living, we have 30 homes, and we have 27 three-bedroom homes and 3 two-bedroom homes. And
are they all full?
They're all full, and we have a waiting list for our independent living, and actually we have a waiting list for our assisted living. After COVID hit, we just ramped back up very quickly. Our prices are really good, and our customer service is really good. It's a small community. We're a nonprofit, as Coleman likes to say, and we make local decisions, and people seem to like that.
I've heard you explain this before, but could you just briefly describe how the financial model works for those homes?
Yeah.
Do the residents purchase those with an obligation to sell them back?
No, that's a good question. So they pay a price for them, one price. They're $280,000 for a three-bedroom home, and they stay 5 years or longer. They get half of that back.
Okay.
You say, why would I do that? Well, while you're there, those 5 years were really the life of the contract. While you're there, you get really a maintenance-free living. So you get your light bulbs changed, you get your filters changed, your yard, everything is included in that price. And, people, they get tired of their big house, they get tired of their farm, maybe it's a widow, they're tired of keeping it up. And so they prefer to have just a smaller home where, they call a number, or they text somebody and say, hey, I need my light bulb changed, I need my air conditioner fixed, I need my filters changed. And it's just an all-inclusive price.
But if you don't live there 5 years, if you
live there 3 years, it's prorated.
It's prorated.
Yeah, so it's 70%.
I remember my good friend Bill Heidel. Bill and June Heidel were a dear friend. You all knew them.
Yes.
But Bill Heidel's wife, June, passed away unexpectedly, and she was such a dear, sweet lady. And Bill bought one of those homes over in Hearthside. He was ready to move in, but before he actually moved in, he passed away.
That's right.
So I guess he didn't get much back.
No, a little story about them. When we were a young couple, we had small kids. We were in Cracker Barrel, and I remember them buying our dinner. You remember stuff like that. They were just great. They were just great people.
They really were. Bill and June, one of the many magnificent people in our community.
But things are going great at Hearthside. We are celebrating our 30th anniversary coming up in November. I'm about to cut a commercial that will tell people about that, and I look forward to celebrating that. We'll be posting some historical photos on Facebook and social media, and we'll be having a celebration November 20th. But 30 years. Can you believe that?
Who was the original person in your job 30 years ago? Do you know?
I don't remember. I do remember. I can't think of her name right now. But
it was a female?
It was a female. I can't remember. I know her name, but I can't think of it right now. But
I'm glad that happens to you, too.
Robert Springer, was there for a while. And then also
Robert Springer, right.
Brian McDonald was there for a while.
Right,
and,
Brian McDonald.
And I came about 7 years ago.
People.
Yeah, great people. And it's gone well. Sarah Johnston, she was there. Actually, she's still there. She's been there 19 years.
Wow.
As the administrator /
Is she the longest tenured person?
No, actually, Crystal Alexander's our longest. She's our cook. She's been there 25 years.
Y'all have good food?
We have great food. Unfortunately for me, I love it, and it's that's one of the positives about Hearthside is the food.
I need to remind you, Sean, that as a friend of mine once told me, the memory is the third thing to go, and I can't remember the first two. So,
well, I can't remember that, but we'll be talking about the history, and I look forward to
that. Will be fun, and I do want to tell you that my mother now is in an assisted living facility. She turns 90 next week, and she is in an assisted living facility in Nashville where she's lived most of her life. And so I have a new appreciation for what you all do. And it's so nice to know that she's taken care of in a facility much like Hearthside.
Yeah, well, it's a season of life that we may all need one day. And to have people that really take care of you 24/7, have somebody there in case you fall or you need something, get your medications timely, get 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
It's a great season. They're still independent in many ways, and they enjoy that season of their life very much.
Remind me to tell you sometime a funny story about the food at the place that she lives called Richland Place that I don't have time to do on the air, but we do have time for a Hearthside hello.
Well, I want to say hello to Faye Sansing. She just moved into Hearthside in one of our 3-bedroom homes. She's a longtime member of First Baptist here in town, and she's really thriving there and doing great. So Faye Sansing is my Hearthside hello.
Fantastic. Well, I'll say hello to Faye this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
You too. Tell your awesome teacher, Bride, hello.
I will.
Kylie.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. We now have our guest for the second half, also not a stranger to this show. Wonder how many times you've been on this show, Mayor.
I don't know, Doctor, but I do know that Coleman usually says that I was one of the first 4 guests he had that day. It was all the mayors, and I'm the only one that's still
in that role.
Still hanging in there.
Yeah. Well, in case you all don't recognize that voice, that's Mayor Mike Jennings, who's been the long-serving mayor of Watertown and also the county attorney, and we're very fortunate to have him. I
didn't know if you were going to say long-suffering or
long-suffering, both, perhaps.
No, it hasn't been.
How many years have you been in the mayoral role now?
I'm finishing up 41 years.
41 years. Yeah. You've got to be one of the longest tenured mayors, maybe in the nation, but certainly in the state of Tennessee.
One of, and people have been saying the last 2 or 3 years that I was the longest, and I didn't think that was right. And Andy Humbles did an article in the paper Sunday, and he had done some investigating on that, and there's a guy out in West Tennessee who's been there 47 years.
Is that McLemoresville?
That's it.
Yeah.
And another guy who had just retired after 50.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's hard to believe, but 41 years is a long time.
It is a long time. Never intended that to happen.
I went and early voted this week, actually on Saturday. My wife and I went and early voted, and I didn't get to vote for you because I don't live in Watertown, but I saw the whole ballot up on the wall, and I saw your name, and I saw that you did not have an opponent. Have you had an opponent in recent years at all?
Well, none on the ballot, but I have run opposed 3 times.
3 times in 41 years?
Yeah, in 15 terms, 3 times. Yeah.
Wow.
That's so I appreciate
you
that.
You must be doing a darn good job, man.
I think it's the fact that it's a non-paying job and everybody else says, we got a sucker that'll do it. Let's just keep him in there. Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for your service because,
thank you.
Watertown, we were talking earlier with Justin Beasley. He said Mount Juliet was not incorporated until 1972, but I think Watertown was incorporated much earlier than that, wasn't it?
1845.
1845.
And we were actually, I think, perhaps incorporated under another name in 1839. Watertown was originally known as
Three Forks.
Three Forks.
Was it Three Forks?
And then it went to Waterstown, named after William Waters.
Okay.
And then they shortened it to Watertown.
Took out one letter to shorten it?
They did.
Because it wouldn't fit on the sign?
Just got tired of writing that,
yeah. That's like I was reading about Greenville, Tennessee. Almost every state in the Union has a Greenville, Tennessee, but Tennessee is the only state that spells Greenville, Greeneville. Everybody else in the nation spells it without that third E in there, which I thought was interesting.
Everybody's got to find their niche. You know,
They do,
You got to do something different.
Well, tell us what's happening in Watertown. I know we probably need to talk about what's going on at the county commission. Did you all have a meeting last night?
We did. We had one lasted about 2 hours and 7 or 8 minutes, and kind of a typical October meeting, but always several things we do to keep government functioning. And then we honored some people last night that probably need to be mentioned here.
Okay,
today.
good.
Well, whenever you think.
I want to come back to that because I want to start out. I really want to. I don't want to miss an opportunity. Coleman would be upset with me, and he wouldn't let me fill in for him anymore if I didn't ask you first about the Tennessee Vols. He always asks you about the Vols. They had a great game last Saturday.
They did,
and you were there, I'm sure.
I was, and we had a great game the week before when we beat Florida in overtime.
Overtime, no. MJ's frowning in there, but that was another great game.
And I had anticipated, I forgot that Coleman goes on special assignment this time of year, but I had anticipated catching a lot of grief from him about Vanderbilt beating Alabama.
First time Vanderbilt in their whole, they were founded in 1872, I think, somewhere around there. And it's the first time Vanderbilt's ever beat a number one ranked team.
Yeah. And I think, I may be wrong on this, I'm not a student of Vanderbilt history, but they beat Alabama in 1969. Watson Brown was the quarterback, and Doug Matthews, who later became defensive coordinator at Tennessee, was the running back.
Is that right?
I believe that's right.
Oh, well,
that goes back a ways.
Say it with conviction. That's what you politicians do, and then everybody has to.
Well, I know it, but a lot of times you have to back up on that. And I've run out of good reasons to say, hey, I just messed up.
That's a great story, though. I grew up a Vanderbilt fan because both of my parents, all four of my grandparents, both of my siblings, and my wife all went to Vanderbilt. I was the black sheep of my family. I did not. But my wife also went to UT, as did I, for graduate school. And so we are UT fans as well as Vanderbilt fans.
Good.
And
nothing wrong with that.
I always love hearing you and Coleman banter about Vanderbilt and UT. And
you ought to hear it off the air.
You say things you can't say on the air.
Well, not quite, but probably things people wouldn't be interested in.
Tennessee's got a pretty tough rest. They play Kentucky this week? Next week?
No, we're off this week. Then we'll play Kentucky. Yeah, this is a tough league we play in.
Oh,
and Texas found out Saturday night. They got welcomed.
Georgia, welcome to the SEC. Texas.
Went into their place and spanked them pretty good.
Yeah, that was
great. It's a tough place to play.
We need to take a break. I'm almost going overtime here, but let's go back to MJ for a quick commercial break.
Thank you, Dr. Stum. We appreciate it. Let's see what's happening on the roadways. It's all brought to you by Absolute Kubota. High performance, high horsepower. 0% financing is still a thing. Now is the best time to save on new Kubota L-Series tractors, rated number 1 for durability and owner experience in the U.S. Absolute Kubota, 1506 West Main. Now at traffic, here's Chuck.
Good morning. Wrapping up this wreck southbound Ellington Parkway at Trinity Lane. Hopefully that'll start to move a little bit better down through there. It's pretty heavy now as we check it out live on 24 westbound up through Antioch. All that traffic building in from Murfreesboro, Rutherford County, headed into Davidson County on 24 going westbound. Prince's Hot Chicken has new items on their new menu. You can use DoorDash, Uber Eats delivery. Check out princeshotchicken.com and click on that menu. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Did you know your vote could help save public schools this election? I am Joni Cochran, running for Tennessee House District 46. I'm a former teacher, and with your vote for me, we can stop the attacks on public education. I favor fully funding public schools, eliminating vouchers, and letting parents decide what their children read and learn, not the state government. Paid for by Joni for TN46, Mary Patterson, Treasurer.
And now, a moment of silence to remember our dear friend.
Sorry. Oh, man. Life can be uncomfortable. Your home doesn't have to be. With a wide range of air conditioners, furnaces, and heat pumps, Rheem makes it easy to feel comfortable, even when you can't be comfortable.
Financing available through TVA's Energy Right program and your local power company. Call Randy's Heat and Air 237-3604.
It's that time of year with warm days and cool nights, and you know what that means.
The Mill at Christmas, Friday, November 1st and Saturday, November 2nd. Don't miss the ultimate shopping experience with vendors galore at the historic Mill at Lebanon.
The Mill at Christmas, Friday, November 1st, VIP Sip and Shop, tickets at the door. Saturday, November 2nd, Santa arrives at noon.
For more information, visit us on Facebook, The Mill at Christmas.
Well, welcome back to the last segment of the Coleman Walker Show. And as if you've just tuned in, you can probably tell this is not Coleman Walker. Coleman has graciously invited me to fill in for him for one day. And this is Paul Stum with Cumberland University. And we are delighted today to have our guest counselor, Mike Jennings. Counselor, you have a lot of titles. You know, you're mayor, you're counselor, your county attorney, you...
some of them can't be repeated on the air.
Some of them can't be repeated.
Yeah.
Right before the break, we were talking about football, one of Mayor Mike Jennings' favorite topics, and he's obviously a big UT fan, and as am I. But we were talking about the fact that Vanderbilt beat Alabama, and Coleman, we want to give you some credit for that. It's clearly because of your support of Vanderbilt that they beat Alabama a few weeks ago, but Alabama has an interesting record, don't they, Mayor, for how many teams in Tennessee have, what the record of Tennessee teams has been against Alabama?
They do. I learned this the other night on the way back from the ball game, listening to the Vol Network, where they carry on for 2 or 3 hours and talk to people and report scores and that type of thing. And I'm a graduate of Cumberland College, so that goes back a long time ago when it was a 2-year school. But they mentioned the other night, they kind of did it, as I recall, as a trivia question, who's the only school in the state of Tennessee that is undefeated against the University of Alabama?
Wait, there's a school in Tennessee that's undefeated against Alabama? That's not Vanderbilt.
Not Vanderbilt, not even close.
Yeah.
Happens to be Cumberland
University.
Whatever they were called then.
They were university back then.
Cumberland University. Well, I knew that.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that. But they beat them 40-0, and you named the year.
1906.
Yep.
1906. Cumberland University beat Alabama. We also beat LSU and Vanderbilt that same year.
I believe they said that as well.
Yeah. But we are undefeated against Alabama.
Yeah. So, and that's a record that's likely to stand, I think.
I'm very proud of that. And I really didn't know till you just told me that we are the only school that has an undefeated record against Alabama.
That's what they said. I think they said there were seven different schools in the state of Tennessee that played Alabama, and Cumberland was the only one that's undefeated.
I love it. I'm glad that you mentioned that, and I'm glad you got to hear that on the radio.
Yeah, I was too. Yeah.
I love listening to those shows, too, and it's a great way to spend your time coming back from Knoxville on that long drive after a game.
It is.
You get to listen to – we used to listen to Mike Keith. Now he's over with the Titans. When I lived in Knoxville, Mike Keith and his wife lived next door to me, and he was a great neighbor. He's just a great guy.
He's a great guy. I've met him a time or two, and he's a personable fellow, as you know.
Yeah, he really is. I did not know, or I had forgotten, maybe I was giving Sean Dozier a hard time for not remembering things, but I had forgotten that you're an alumnus of our fine institution, and I'm proud to know that.
I am. I went the first 2 years there. Of course, that's all we could go then, but I remember coming from Watertown of 240 students to Cumberland at that time about 450 students, and I remember walking in there and thinking, what am I doing here? This is a great big place.
A huge place. Yeah. We have almost 3,500 students at Cumberland now. It's unbelievable. We have grown quite a bit. And,
yes, you have.
That's what years were you at Cumberland? Do you know?
72 to 74. I got an Associates of Science degree in 74.
And then you went to UT after that, or did you?
MTSU.
MTSU.
And I went to law school at UT.
Law school at UT in Knoxville.
Dr. Stockton was the president over there.
Oh yeah, Ernest Stockton. What a venerable man. I never got to meet him, but I know some of his family and have heard so many wonderful stories about Ernest Stockton.
You know, they had, when I was going to school there, they had chapel either once a week or once a month. I think it was once a week.
Yeah.
So it went for an hour.
And you had to wear a coat and tie, didn't you?
No, not then.
Maybe to Sunday lunch, I heard.
I didn't do Sunday lunch. But, okay. But, you know, Cumberland brought some great people in there to speak. I remember seeing Ed Too Tall Jones.
Really?
And that was
he came and spoke.
He came and spoke, and I thought that's the biggest man I've ever seen.
Yeah, he was big.
And now he's kind of he just would blend in with all.
Well, he would now because everybody's so big. You know, I was when I went to high school. I went to high school in Nashville to an all boys school, and I played on the football team for 1 year. I was not big enough really, but not many people on our team were a lot bigger than I. Really, the biggest guy on our football team was still a good friend of mine. His name's Galt Baker, and Galt was 240 pounds.
Yeah.
He played on the line, offense and defense, both sides, and he was also the heavyweight wrestler on our wrestling team. And he was bigger by far than anybody else on our team, our football team. Today, in my high school, roughly a generation later, every boy on both sides of the line is much bigger than he was. Every one of them.
And stronger.
And
They have weight programs. And, the weight program at Watertown was hauling hay and cutting tobacco.
That's right.
And so you were glad to get to football practice that night to get out of, the guys that lived on the farm. I didn't, but I mowed yards all day long. And, it was a welcome relief to get to football practice.
So you grew up in Watertown.
I did.
Been there. Have you been there your whole life?
Except for the 3 years I went to law school.
Except for the 3 years at law school in Knoxville. Wow. That's wonderful.
Well, yeah, it's a good place to live.
And it's a great law school. We now have 6 law schools in the state of Tennessee, and we almost had 7 because Sidney McPhee at MTSU, your other alma mater, tried to buy the Valparaiso Law School a few years ago. Yep, he did. And the THEC, Tennessee Higher Education Commission, turned it down. They wouldn't let him do it because, and I think it was a good decision, that would have been 7 law schools in the state. We just don't need that many law schools.
You've got, 3 here, Vanderbilt, Belmont, and the Nashville School of Law right there within 15 miles.
That's exactly right. And Judge Bill Koch, who runs the National School of Law, is on our board at Cumberland, and what a magnificent trustee. He's a former Tennessee State Supreme Court Justice.
Had the opportunity to argue in front of him, I think, when he was on the Court of Appeals.
Is that right? Okay, good. Do you still do, I know you represent the county, but do you still have independent cases that you take, do you litigate? Or?
Not very many. I'm fortunately or unfortunately, as you may look at it, at my age, I'm having children and grandchildren of previous clients come to see me.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't turn them away.
Yeah.
And also people that will come in and say, I worked with your daddy years ago. They say that they're going to get in the door.
Was your daddy a lawyer?
No, my daddy worked at Ford Glass Plant. Drove from Watertown to the other side of Nashville every day or every night. For 37 years, but people will come in and say, and most of them are deceased now, but they used to come in and say,
I knew your daddy, and you're going to take them. Absolutely.
Come on in.
Absolutely. That's great, Mayor. Well, we've only got 5 minutes left, but tell us a little bit about the county commission meeting and who you honored last night.
Yeah, we honored one posthumously, Debbie Moss, who is our circuit court clerk here, her sister.
Oh, yeah.
The late Miss Sherry Jean Brewington Bilbrey, and I heard a lot of things about her last night I did not know. I think I had met her, but I didn't know her personally.
Great family. That whole family is wonderful.
And many of them were there last night.
Oh, good.
And then we honored a man named Kevin Wolverton last night, and he saved a young girl, 3 years old, from drowning in the rock
quarry. Was that
quarry.
behind the Wilson County Motors?
Yes, down to rock quarry.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I heard that story.
He went to down and found her floating.
And pulled her out and saved her life. Yeah.
So they honored him last night.
That's got to be a God thing. I mean, how did he even think to look down in that quarry? That girl was missing, and they were looking for her.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
And
he works for Wilson County Motors.
He does. He does. And they said he was a jack of all trades. They needed something done, he'd take care of it.
Mitchell Bone told me that story, and I just was astounded. I'm so glad you all recognize that man.
Yeah, that when you start off meetings like that, you obviously hate to honor somebody that's deceased, but you also want to remember their memory too. And then this man, and those things start a meeting off right, even if you're going to have some.
Is that what you did at the very beginning of the meeting?
Pretty close to the front.
After the pledge and the prayer, maybe.
Yeah, and we didn't have any controversy last night, but some nights it's been good to have something like that because there's going to be a fight coming later on in the meeting.
Gets people in the right mindset, maybe
That's right. Maybe they'll ease up a little bit.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of those problems. I exaggerate, but we did 20 total resolutions last night, re-upped the county's insurance plan, appropriated some different monies out, and approved a couple of grants, one to the health department and one to the election commission. So I'll always love those. Those are free money.
Yeah,
we're glad
free
to get
money
those.
It's my favorite 4-letter word.
Absolutely,
free.
Absolutely. So, and we heard some reports last night. I know y'all talked about Jeff Luttrell a little earlier. Jeff gave an attendance last night. He said 20,792 as of the end of September.
Okay.
We're up 400 from the end of school last year. Attendance rate is at 95%. And we also heard something that we hadn't heard in a long time last night. EMA Director Joey Cooper says for the first time, he didn't say this, but I believe I'm right, for the first time since before COVID, we have no vacancies. We're fully staffed now.
Wow, that's good.
And the sheriff said as of next week, he will be fully staffed when some additional people complete their training.
Sheriff Bryan reported the same thing. Great.
Same thing. So that's good. Because we were struggling a couple of years ago. They were reporting 20, 30, 40 vacancies, and you know what that does to your overtime.
Yeah, drives
you
it
can't
out
just
the roof.
shut down.
That's right.
You got to work somebody.
That's right. Especially in the sheriff's office and in the school system, you know, the bus drivers. And,
Always enjoy hearing those reports. I think, you know, this not something maybe a lot of people understand, but Robert said last night the average jail population is 529.
How many of those are from out of county, though? Don't we get a lot of jail inmates from out of county?
We get a lot of state inmates they send out, and they may be from other counties, but then they send them out to Wilson County.
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage is. It's not half. It's not anywhere close.
But 500 and how many did you say?
529.
And what's the capacity of our
I think we're around 850 now, so we built it for growth.
So we've only got about 60% full.
That's right. Okay. But until they did that, we were at 125% or whatever. So we built that for growth. You know, we started building schools years ago, and we thought that was for growth. But by the time you get them built, they're full, and it's time to build another one. Yep. So, but that's one thing we should be set for a while.
Do we have, this is a dumb question, but I remember visiting the county jail years ago. I think we did that as part, Sean Dozier and I think did that as part of Leadership Wilson, actually. And but it was a
best
different
class
facility.
ever.
Best class ever. Yeah,
I heard that.
You probably heard that from several sources.
Every time somebody speaks.
But the jail at the time was very different, I think, than what it is today. But do we have a separate women's and men's? Are they different? Is it in the same jail but just different pods?
Different pods.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't remember.
Then they have a medical pod. Of course, we have when we take somebody in, we have to take care of them.
Mayor, MJ has pointed to me. I have completely not watched the clock, and we are out of time. I have so enjoyed talking with you.
We'd talk for another hour.
We really could. Yeah. Thank you all for listening today. Coleman will be back soon, but I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Mayor Mike Jennings, thank you so much.
You're welcome.